Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to RVing in New England. My name is John DiPietro, and we've got a very special show tonight. You can see that we're looking at things a little bit differently because the camera that I have has got all these green leaves around me, and we're using a whole new program. But hopefully everything's going on okay, and you'll be able to see us, and things will be working because we have a very special guest. My name is John DiPietro. As I mentioned, our normal combination of hosts of Bob Zagami and myself. Bob is in Las Vegas, and he is at the RV Dealers Association, RVDA, National Trade Show. And because of the time difference and all the meetings that he has there, he's unable to join us tonight, but I'm sure that he will be catching on real soon. Jerry Plant is here. Glad I winterized last weekend, folks. Everybody knows, we had 13-degree weather in Worcester last night. And good thing we had a show 2 or 3 weeks ago about winterization. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. Is that pretty logical? Let's talk about what we're going to talk about. A couple weeks ago, we asked on this page, what types of discussions and what types of guests would you like to see on? And Chuck Lundberg was kind enough to post something in about the difference between seasonal RVers and weekend RVers, that type of thing. And we had a number of other people mention the fact that they wanted to talk about alternative ways that people are camping. And just so happens that we've got the great guest from Under Canvas, and let me welcome her here right now by phone, joining us from Montana. Say hello to Mae Lilly. Mae, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me.
Well, we wanted to welcome you to New England, and we tried to give you better weather, but you know what? What did you say the temperature was in Montana?
Well, I'm actually in Denver.
Oh, you're in Denver, okay.
We're at a balmy 48 degrees Fahrenheit.
48 degrees. So, it's funny because when we watch the Broncos games here, usually they get the first snow games of the season are at when the Broncos are playing. But tonight we've got the crazy weather and you've got the good weather. So anyway, so, Jerry, you're listening. Can you just write in and let us know if you can hear this the way it's working right now, Jerry? Just let me know that because we had some technical difficulties right at 7:00. So we want to make sure that you can hear our guest, Jerry. Downslope winds. Jerry, let us know if you can hear our guest. In the meantime, what we're going to do is talk about the program that became news this week when it was announced that a company called Under Canvas, which has 8 other locations throughout the United States, has announced, thank you, Jerry, has announced that they're going to be opening a brand new facility next summer, 2020, just outside of Acadia National Park in the great state of Maine. And the difference between a quote unquote traditional campground that we're so used to that take years and years to build is that this is going to be, Mae, can I call it a glamp ground?
Sure. Yeah. Glamorous camping, glamp ground, glamping, glamp site.
Okay.
All of the above.
Exactly. So tell us about why the state of Maine, and then I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your background and the background of the company. So first of all, tell us Maine, because the name of this show is RVing in New England, and you all are coming to New England, and our friends might realize that you don't have a Rhode Island accent either.
No, I don't. I'm not local in that sense. From Australia originally, born and raised in Melbourne. But getting back to Maine and the appeal for Under Canvas there, it's perhaps a little known fact that Acadia National Park is our #1 most requested new camp location of anywhere across the US. So you guys obviously have something special and secret up there that you're not sharing. So we're excited to be a part of it.
It's interesting that you say that because I think I mentioned to you earlier when we were talking off air, when you're close to a national attraction, like the Freedom Trail in Boston, or if a New Yorker lived in probably doesn't visit the Statue of Liberty or the Empire State Building. I think you kind of take it for granted. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, I mean, it probably also was New Yorkers and people from Maine who have been requesting it, because we actually, although we're not up in the Northeast yet, most of our camps are kind of in the West, and we have one in the Great Smoky Mountains further south, but we have a lot of destination guests from the Northeast who love coming into our other camps. So it's really exciting now to have one kind of in the backyard for many, but also at such a wonderful destination for our guests all over the country. And I'm excited to get up there myself. I haven't yet been. So really exciting. The photos of the region just look amazing, and it's a really special piece of land. Our Chief Development Officer said it's just exquisite, and waterfront, which is a first for the company. So really exciting.
And, I'm sure that Mr. Zagami will be bringing you to eat lobster.
I love lobster.
Maine lobster, which is the best, which I'm told is the best in the world. I admit to not being a seafood fan, but nevertheless. So you guys have properties in Zion and Glacier, Grand Canyon, Moab, Utah, Yellowstone, Mount Rushmore, the Great Smoky Mountains, and Tucson. So this is not your first rodeo by any stretch.
No. We're growing fast, though. Our first camp was Yellowstone, and that opened in 2012. So we're still relatively young, but growing fast. Obviously, the company has learned a lot in that short amount of time, and every new camp and every iteration just is that much more impressive than the last. And Jake, our Chief Design Officer, who's also one of the co-founders, designs all the tents himself and is really innovative. So, it's just beautiful, the actual construction too. It's inspired by the African safari. So just even the lines, it's very sort of design forward and contemporary, but also embraces the outdoors and the spot that it's in. So.
So the concept is certainly starting to grow, because not too long ago, KOA has announced a glamping resort right in that same area, which you're probably aware of. You've got another one planned for, the Hudson Valley in New York City. But the concept of the tent, the luxury tent, has really caught on in New England. There's Sandy Pines Campground just outside of Kennebunkport, Maine, that is adding on, because they just, they can't, the demand for it is greater than what they have for supply. But tell us a little bit about the background of the company. Only because of the fact that I think you guys really grasp that you're in the outdoor hospitality industry and not necessarily in the campground industry. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that service philosophy definitely separates us. So going back to the beginning, the co-founders of the company are husband and wife couple, Sarah and Jake Jusek. She's British, and he's kind of the quintessential Montana guy. So they actually met when they were working for an NGO in Southeast Asia. And so they've always kind of had a philosophy to, I guess, a philanthropic mind, and just to kind of contribute to the world in a positive way. And so that was interesting to me, even when I came working for the company, because obviously it's nice to know that the company that you're working for also has a strong mission and values, which they certainly did. And then they sort of got burnt out with that work, moved back to England, where she was from, for a time, and she did some more studying, and then they moved to Montana, where Jake's from, and his family has land there. And so they thought, they'd been inspired by the African safari experience. Sarah had traveled and done some safaris in her early 20s, and then marrying that with the philosophy of wanting to do good. And it's important to them to get people outside and embracing the outdoors and disconnecting from the hustle and bustle of day to day. as well as in turn, hopefully, making ambassadors to protect and preserve our beautiful outdoors and public spaces. So that kind of inspired Yellowstone, obviously being in their backyard, living in Montana, and they leased 200 acres of land initially, which they ended up buying back. And they, did everything on credit card and worked up hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and credit card, sort of trying to create their vision.
Yep.
And then it kind of went from there. 2 years later, then they built at Glacier and Moab. And so then they realized that, it just made sense to be sort of just outside of national parks, just knowing the popularity and having that connection then to have a really amazing kind of safari style experience. And it's an adventure in and of itself. It's more than just a place to rest your head. So
right, because that was the first thing I noticed, is that you have located outside of national parks, which already have a following of their own. So you're not really introducing a new destination, but utilizing destinations that there's already the demand for.
Exactly right. So it's a smart business model.
For sure. And, when I've noticed checking the website out, folks, and if you want to check the website out, by the way, I had all these links down to show you to click when we're doing it here, but then I realized I was on the wrong program. So we scrambled at 7:01 to make this show work. It is undercanvas.com. And if you've got another device there, you may want to take a look, because I think it's a very impressive website. The other thing I want to say is that I was amazed at in the initial press release is that no internet.
Right.
Talk about
very
that.
Very intentional.
Talk about that.
So we have what we call our intentional inconveniences, and that is one of them. So it's important to, and I think this is back to your point of not just being a place to stay and kind of having that additional hospitality perspective, that people just have such a profound experience when they stay at Under Canvas, because all of a sudden the kids are playing outside and
even talking to each other.
I know,
such revolutionary things, right?
Yeah, and everything. When you come to one of our camps, we have a main lobby tent, which has we have food, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We serve lunch packs to go, and then you can have a full breakfast menu and full dinner menu, and it's very kind of wholesome.
May, I got to stop you, because this is not snack bar food. When you look at the menus that are available, this is pretty close to gourmet food.
It is, and it's super healthy and clean and sourced locally. And so I think it's a lot of people as well are pleasantly surprised that it's such a great dining experience when they're there as well. It's not just grabbing a snack. It's part of the whole experience from start to finish. So, but the disconnection is really important. We have a communal fire pit. It's all about a sense of community. So everyone's kind of eating together. There's complimentary s'mores in the evening. So you're having those traditional camping aspects.
Yeah.
But talking and meeting other travelers, and most people have gone out and had a really amazing day in the national park, adventuring, and we partner with local vendors in the local communities that we're in, so that our guests can see the best of the air at the region, and we encourage that exploration and adventure.
Yeah, the thing that I've noticed with looking at your website and seeing some of the attractions is that you're not really, our friends at Tiffin Motorhomes, they call their thing roughing it smoothly. You're not roughing it at all by any means. And the other thing I've noticed is that you can go there, get to the property, and not have to even use a vehicle, because you seem to have created attraction, things to do around each particular place. And I know in Maine, you'll probably do the same thing, because that seems to be the business model. Kind of like a cruise ship, where you don't have to figure out anything, just go to the next attraction, right?
Yeah, well, and once you're there, like I said, we want it to kind of be a fun experience. It's more than just a place to sleep. So there's a lot of complimentary programming. I mentioned s'mores, but then, one night it might have, we have yoga, or there might be live music, just for like a local musician might be strumming away and singing around the campfire. There's board games. Some camps have painting classes. I mean, the staff kind of, like I said, embraces the area and creates a really fun kind of optional programming that you can participate in. So it's non-stop fun, or you can completely disconnect. And
let me read you some of the comments that our guests have put on here so far. Jerry Plant says, I'm brought back to the safari camps in old colonial Africa. And
lovely.
Jason Cole says, hello. Jim Convoy says, nice job. Jesse says they have some great locations. And, that's true. I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon if you follow where people are already going. It seems to be a more logical thing than finding cheap land somewhere in the middle of nowhere and then having to, number one, have people come to your place, but tell them why they should go there. And then Jerry writes, oh, my God, my wife thinks boondocking is when we can't get satellite. And for any of our guests that are watching right now, hello, Ed LaTurco, good afternoon, good evening. If you've got a question for Mae, just type it in and we'll ask it to her. And, the format's a little bit different tonight because it's obvious I'm not as technically savvy as Bob Zagami is. But Mae, I had a couple other questions for you. With the change in the way the RV world is going, the old big Class A diesels, their sales are down, the gassers are down, the Class Cs are up, and the Class Bs are up. But more importantly, these people that are the young generation that are buying these products right now, they want to go out to the national parks. They want to experience that. Who has your traditional, and traditional is a rough word to say when you're only 7 years old, but who is your market right now? Where are they coming from? How old are they? Are they bringing kids with them? So there's 3 questions.
Yeah. So
those are fair, aren't they?
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Fair game. So it's interesting. As people ask me all the time, and I say our target market is anyone who enjoys the outdoors, which is nice, right? Because that's kind of broad. But also that, anyone that's up for a little bit of adventure. So we're finding, honestly, we do kind of get it all. We definitely get a lot of families. And I think it's an amazing family vacation because, again, of this disconnect piece. We have a passport program too, which is really fun and engaging for families and kids, where they get a physical passport that they can get stamped. So they get a sort of like if anyone's a stamp collector for the National Park passport program, they do a similar concept. And so your 5th stay at our camp is free. So it's, sort of inviting people to explore and go to different national parks. But yeah, our kind of bread and butter is like 35 to 50. But certainly we get all ages and, bachelorette parties. It's really fun, obviously glamping for a bunch of girls. But yeah, families, empty nesters, couples. That's what's nice about our brand, and it's quite intentional as well that we also want, because the outdoors should be enjoyed by everybody, and so accessibility is a core principle of ours as well. So the price range varies we have different tent types, and obviously seasonality impacts that as well, but the range is anywhere from $99 a night through to $500 a night, depending on whether you want a kind of traditional safari tent, which has a king-size bed or a couple of twins.
And we should say, Mae, this is a bed. It's not a mattress on.
Oh no, it's
a
full 4-post bed. Yeah, super comfy. I have the best night's sleep when I'm there, just between the fresh air and no connection digitally. So, and then those ones, the more affordable ones we have a communal bathroom, but they're individual locked stalls with your own shower and toilet and everything. So it's super comfy. And then it goes up from there where they can be on elevated decks and have your own ensuite bathroom within your tent with a sliding barn door. And they have bedside tables with lanterns and leather chairs. And so you can sort of pick your price point based on how much you want to spend and who you're coming with. But yeah, I think as compared to some other glamping companies, I think there's a perception, and it's true, there are some much more extravagant and expensive, less achievable price points in glamping. I think some people can think it's not achievable, but it's certainly accessible to everyone.
You know, if you want to spend so much more money, why not just stay at a Ritz?
Yeah, right.
You know, and just be at the beach or something along those lines. What are you finding your average stay to be? Are people doing 1 night, 3 nights, 7 days? What are you finding with that?
Yeah, it's all over the place, and it depends on the camp. So I think a lot of people at the moment are doing kind of short trips. They might, like the Great American Road Trip, they'll find us along the way. And a lot of people say, oh, we wish we'd stayed longer, because if you haven't scheduled for it. So it's something that we're working on to let people know that it's not just, a night here and a night there. It should be part of a multi-night stay, and there's so much to do. But yeah, I think regretfully people generally only do a couple of nights, but
just getting used to it. How about repeat visitors, Mae? Are you seeing that from year to year, repeat?
Yeah, really great this year compared to last. Huge increase of repeat, and again, just as we're still a pretty young company, so obviously that baseline for repeat is lower, but
sure.
Just even the strides we've made just in this last year alone is huge. And like I said, we have now these programs like the Passport program that really encourages people, and now we've got a really strong network and only keep adding now with these 2 Northeast camps, and we announced that we're adding 4 in California. You did ask where people are coming from, and we have a heat map. I have a heat map that I geek out on, see where everyone's coming from, and there really are blobs all over the country. But I will say, New York and California, are important states for us. But it's from everywhere. So we get nearby regional visits. People are excited at a local level and want to come check it out because it's such a great staycation. It's so experiential.
Sure.
And if you have family in town, or like I said, if you're having a bachelorette party or anything, we see a lot of that.
Well, when you look at the map with your other destinations, they're around national parks, but they're not in metro areas. It will be very interesting to see when you get the 2 Northeast properties built, how much of your traffic is going to be local or within 200 miles. Because if you're going to the Grand Canyon, you're probably flying there, or if you're RVing, but you're taking a month to do it. And we should say that this is probably not be considered RVing, but it's certainly camping, and it's bringing people out into the outdoors that might not have been there before, because in all the discussions that we've had with our friends at KOA, they say that their biggest growing area is the cabins. And I'm sure that in your research, you've studied KOA to the hilt to see what they're doing and, model somewhat after their figures.
Yeah, I'd say yes and no. I really think that we are so unique in terms of our offering, and we like to sort of keep our heads down. I love the fact that there are all these different kind of variations of glamping popping up, because, again, I think if we're united in the mission to getting more people outside and becoming ambassadors of our environment, and we have a pretty impressive score sheet in terms of, our water usage is more than 80%, or less than, around 80% less than a hotel of a comparable size, for example. So we have, again, our intentional inconveniences, showers,
Talk
even
about
in tents with the en-suites, pool chains.
A pull chain. What do you mean? The water only doesn't, it's not running the whole time, only when you pull the chain, right?
Right. And again, that's a water conservation effort, which our guests want and appreciate.
Yep.
So same with our energy. Wherever possible, we derive energy from solar panels, and just a very environmentally conscious in our approach. Same with our development philosophy, which is to leave the land as untouched as we possibly can, and minimize that impact, and kind of be as one with nature.
Mae, we started talking about the properties so rapidly here to get into it. Let me just take one break here for a second. Then I want to come back and ask you what your background is. But this is the part of the show where we ask people to take time to share the story, share the show. That's the way we were able to reach 7,000 to 10,000 people a week. Last week, we had the show with the young guy, Nolan Pastore, on the 14-year-old whiz kid from Ohio. We've got about 9,000 views on that already, and we want to thank you for taking the time to share that. And I think you definitely want to share this week's show because it's so different from our normal show where we talk about tire pressure and voltage and that type thing, et cetera. So with that being said, we also want to remind you that my name is John DiPietro. Our co-host, Bob Zagami, is at the RVDA, the RV Dealers Association National Trade Show. And I will tell you this, folks, and Bob is too modest to admit it, but he is one of the recognized, the most highly respected people in the RV industry. That's why he gets asked to speak at all these national conventions and sit on all these committees about the future and the present of the RV industry. So with that being said, I want to let you know that our guest is Mae Lilly. She's the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Under Canvas. And if you haven't heard of that name yet, you will be hearing about it very shortly as they begin operations next summer in what's the town? Surrey, Maine, just outside of, I guess it's about a half-hour ride from Acadia National Park. And with that being said, Mae Lilly, tell us your background, because it sounds like this is not your first rodeo when it comes to entertainment and sales and marketing and promotion.
Yeah, so evidently I was not born in the US. I was born in Melbourne, and my family were mad ski fanatics. And so we would, I was lucky enough to come and ski in Colorado at a few different resorts as a kid during our summer break. And so we would come over, and then when I finished university, I thought, I'll just do one ski season instructing in Vail in Colorado. And so I did that, and then just kind of fell in love with Colorado, and again, always been passionate about the outdoors and love skiing. And my background was in advertising. My whole family's in the industry. And so I'd then go back and get burnt out and then come back and ski. And then I remember laughing with my friends saying, I wonder if there's a way. I know there's so many passionate skiers in Australia. I wonder if there's a way that I could find a job where they would pay me to share my love and passion for skiing and for Vail, and they'd fly me home to see my family, and it was ha ha ha. And then that was before I knew that they actually had an international marketing and communications team for Vail Resorts.
Actually get paid to do something you like.
Paid to talk about what I love. I know, it was crazy.
When you figure most people spend 5/7 of their life doing something that they don't necessarily love doing, don't necessarily love the people that they're working with, and they do it in order to live the other 2 days of the week.
Right.
You've got a 7-day gig here going on pretty good. And you know what? I think so many people in the RV industry, so many of our listeners are people that would love to have that opportunity to just hit the road and not worry about, where the next bill payment is coming from. But I interrupted you. You were somewhere skiing.
Oh no! So then this position came up in international communications for Vail Resorts, and I did exactly that. I kind of threw it out to the universe, and it happened, and so that was fun. So for about 7 years, I was flying around the world talking about, meeting with media and talking about all of the Vail ski resorts. And then they bought one in Australia. So I got to then help with that integration and connect the dots for Australian skiers to come to the US, and then did sort of destination marketing and efforts for them. And then I was approached by a recruiter on behalf of Under Canvas about a year and a half ago. And, again, just as I'm sharing with you, he shared the backstory of the company to me. And I was just so energized by what they were doing, and obviously the fact that they were fast growing, and that it was a brand that I could really get behind, and the very strong mission, vision, and values. And just I just couldn't wait to apply that same passion I had about skiing to just sort of get the word out. Yeah. Much the same way about Under Canvas, and it is more than just it's not just a hotel or.
And we just want to tell our viewers and listeners that again. Undercanvas.com is the website. If you've got another device that you can take a look at while you're watching or listening to the show, I think you really understand that this place is something special. Hey, I got to ask you this: with the short seasons, and I also saw the Tucson season is the opposite of the rest of them. They're September to March?
Yeah, so we first moved into Tucson. It's a little different from the rest of the portfolio in that it's only 26 tents and on a ranch. So Tanque Verde Ranch is in Tucson, and so it was an opportunity to sort of try something different, but at a much smaller scale. So, for example, Yellowstone runs at 100 tents. Mm-hmm. So this is much, much smaller. And it was a bit of a test to see, kind of feel out winter glamping.
Yeah. And you certainly
which
you don't want to be in a tent in Tucson in June, July, or August.
Certainly not. No, it's far too hot. So we did our first season last year, and then we launched a couple of months ago, and are just running until December 31 on this year. And then I think in the wake of these Northeast camps in California, we're now kind of pivoting away from that model and kind of redeploying efforts towards those new camps ahead. So,
exactly. So what I've noticed here is the short seasons. Mm-hmm. And I guess the business question is, how can you justify an investment like that with the short season? You have short seasons. How quickly can you, once you get all your permits and documents from the local governments, how quickly can you set up and be ready? Because it doesn't look like it's a 2-year deal.
Yeah, very quickly. I mean, that's the beauty of having kind of a minimal footprint approach to development. And it's interesting you talking about the seasonality, because having worked for more than 10 years in the ski industry, it's no different. And only recently that the ski industry has sort of looked to say, oh, well, maybe we should probably look at what the summer opportunity is in the mountains. But really, the bread and butter is winter. Just in terms of profit margins and all that good stuff. So, it works too. I mean, even for me thinking, because when I worked in the ski industry, people would say, well, what do you do for the other half of the year? And I was like, oh my gosh, if only I knew.
Get ready to work during the other 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Like people are booking all year round for that one season. And we're the same. I mean, I will say that, yes, a glacier runs from Glacier National Park is an even shorter season than what we're proposing for May. So that runs from, June till the end of September. We're proposing May till October for Acadia. Mm. So, but then a Great Smoky Mountains or a Zion runs from March through December too this year. Okay. So, yeah, it's no doubt it's about diversifying. But also our camps are much bigger. So Yellowstone has 100 tents. So yeah, it's a balance of
when you're in off season, do you disassemble everything and put it away in a big building?
Yes, they take everything back down. So to make sure, obviously, some of the areas most of the areas we operate in have heavy snowfall during the off season, and so we don't want to damage the canvas.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a setup crew that are amazing. They kind of move around year round, bouncing from camp to camp, and they pop everything up. And then, there are certain foundational structures that remain, the decks that the tents are on, the communal bathrooms. But, otherwise everything comes back down.
Folks, if you just joined us, we're talking with Mae Lilly, the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Under Canvas, and they're going to be opening in the Northeast in the great state of Maine near Acadia National Park, and also in the Hudson Valley in New York. So that's going to really be interesting to see what crowd comes out of New York City just up the Hudson, and then over kind of like where Woodstock was, right? I think you're somewhere near. I'm kind of familiar with that area. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's about a 2-hour drive from Manhattan and about 30 minutes from Woodstock. So, but right in the thick of hiking and, by the Catskills Mountains. So,
Hey, one thing I saw on your website, 7 parks in 7 days. Tell our viewers about that concept.
Yeah, so this is a special one. It's, it's a bigger price point, but really amazing bucket list experience. And we've seen a lot of multi-generational families do this. So the idea is it's a fully customized itinerary, and you can, based on where our camps are and the access to multiple parks from several of the camps, you can accomplish 7 national parks in 7 days and 4 nights. At 4 of our camps. So again, fully customizable. You have a plane. We have a charter plane that whisks you from location to location, and then our staff. It's very handheld. So obviously, there's a full briefing about, the Jones family's coming. Here are the number of kids and adults, and you're kind of, your hand is held the entire way. So it's a really amazing experience that's, like I said, fully customized, and we have the most wonderful stories from families who've participated. So,
hey, last summer when we were at Yellowstone, we saw trash cans that were bear proof, and we saw signs about don't leave food outside of your unit and lock your unit up. My question is, bears in tents, do they get along?
No. So we obviously, this is the thing. It's like people want to be outdoors. We're embracing it. That's the outdoors. So you're privy to similar, bugs and flora and fauna. We encourage people. Well, actually, people are not allowed to have food in the tents. So while we serve food, it's in the main lobby tent, which has locked doors, so they can't get in there. But it's not been an issue. And as long as people kind of follow those guidelines and then lock any valuables or food in the car, it's never an issue. But Yellowstone is wild.
When you go through Yellowstone and you see some of the crazy, crazy things that people do, to try to get up close to get a shot of an elk or a buffalo or a bear or something like that, you wonder why more of them aren't on the front page of USA Today. Or
Grand Canyon, you see some scary selfies going on.
I mean, yes, you're right. You're right. So, folks, if you have a question, just feel free to type it in, and we'll be happy to pass it along to Mae. And one here, Jerry said that anything that gets people out from in front of the screen is great. And then he says, kind of like bugging out in MASH. With the tent, but you're probably a little bit more glamorous than MASH, wouldn't you say, Mae?
A little bit different from MASH, but I love that reminder. I used to watch MASH as a kid. but yeah, a little bit of an elevated experience from MASH, and no helicopters.
Exactly. So tell us about how you partner with local attractions to provide a full vacation, because most campgrounds kind of expect you to stay there during the day. You're kind of your model is a little bit different in that you want people to go out and explore the region. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So so much so that, like I said, we don't offer lunch on premises. You can order a box lunch the night before, but we're very much encourage people, and it's really the reason for being, because based on the locations that we have, it really is about embracing the region. So we have an adventures department, and they actively go out and find the quintessential adventures in the area and partner with local vendors to do that. And so then just for ease, can either book those adventures directly with us, and they, like I said, we work with those vendors then to kind of make it a seamless experience. And then we also have packages for people, particularly for families who just want a turnkey, all-inclusive, don't have to think about anything. So a 2-night, a 3-night, or a 4-night package. We're just about to launch these. It's super exciting. And it's all-inclusive, so all your meals are covered. So we'll pack you off with box lunches during the day. You've got, a hot breakfast in the morning, and then come back to a super healthy and delicious meal in the evening. And then you get to choose from a list of, for the 2-night package, you can choose 2 adventures, 3-night, 3, 4, 4. So quite intuitive. But yeah, I think it's great. We obviously want to work with the local community because they know the area better than anybody. And
you're a revenue generator, because you're really the destination here.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm sure that you must beginning to look at the economic impact that you have on an area where, if you're bringing in X number of people that are spending a certain amount of money, they're not just staying in your property. Again, you're dispersing them throughout the day. So they're going to the restaurants, they're going to the attractions, they're going to the food stores, etc. And the tourist attractions, if you will.
Yeah, and like I said, we always embrace the local community. It's so important for us, and we need great partners in the community so that people have an amazing time. It's such an important part of it. So yeah, we love embracing our new neighbors and hope that they see the value that we bring as well.
How many sites is Maine planned for?
How many sites? Oh, you mean how many tents?
Yeah.
So approximately 75. So obviously this is all still in the permitting phase, but we project about 75, and we're on 100 acres of waterfront.
And with 75 tents, how many people, how many jobs does that provide?
Ooh, that's a good question. I could say something, but I'd be making it up.
Again, obviously it's seasonal work, but everything is in the great state of Maine has so many seasonal things, whether it's skiing or summertime activity. But when you remember that, just let us know and we'll do a follow-up video someday. But Jerry also mentioned that down here on Cape Cod, there is an auto camp starting with Airstreams. So they've taken an existing RV park. You're not taking an existing RV park. You're not training. I mean, is it going to be pretty well, let me continue with one thought, because my ADD will kick in and I'll start talking about 3 things at once and not get any of them right.
I have the same affliction.
Yeah, their affliction. I hadn't thought of it as that, but I thought it was a personality trait. They're taking Airstreams and putting them there, so people are going to come in and just drive to the Airstream. So they've got metal around them instead of canvas, but I think it's the same thing. It's people that don't own an RV, but yet want to enjoy the experience of outdoor living.
Yeah, and I think that, they're obviously a unique concept as well, but they are limited to kind of recycling old camping spaces for the RVs, whereas we can kind of go anywhere and be a little more off the beaten track. And then obviously, canvas. It's pretty special. Hearing the rainfall. We also have.
Wait. Say that again, because I have said this a million times. There is nothing greater.
It sounds different.
Than hearing the rain on my RV.
That's the best.
But the tent does give it a little like a more mellow.
Yes.
Kind of like instead of a drum beat, you hear
the pitter patter on canvas. It's amazing. I mean, we also have one of our tents is called the Stargazer, and it's got kind of a little recessed area behind the head of the king size bed, and with a perspex panel above you. I'm making actions with my hands. If you could see, my arms are like waving around, but it's sort of an arched clear panel, so you can literally lie in bed and look up at the stars.
Oh.
But it's equally as amazing when it rains, because you've got this cascading waterfall over your head.
So what if you looked up and you saw a bear looking down? You get the hell out of there pretty quick, huh?
No, it's never happened.
Never. Okay, I know. Now the PR people in New York are going to say, "Why did that guy keep bringing that up?" Jerry. Somebody writes, "Next up, singles under canvas. There? Is it primarily families, or are there singles that are attending? Or
I mean, I've stayed there a number of times by myself and had the best time ever. So, again, it's not we get. Everyone. There's certainly people come alone, and that's the nice thing about it too, because it's so much more social with all of the community spaces. And I've met some amazing people when I've been there by myself.
And the camp, you have the big community campfire kind of thing.
Yeah, we've got the community fire going with the s'mores, and like I said, there'll be live music or card games and things going on in the main lobby tent. We've partnered with West Elm, have done a beautiful job furnishing our main lobby tents. So they're super comfy and, stylish. But, as a single, I've been there and had just the most amazing stay, reading my book in the tent and just listening to I stayed at the Great Smoky Mountains and listening to little tree frogs. It felt like I was in the rainforest in Australia again. Or you can choose to be social. So it's really... it's actually really great for single travelers. Yeah.
Either way. Ed asked where you're located. Ed, she's physically located in Denver, but the company is located in Montana. But the facilities are, Mae, why don't you just read them off again to Ed, because I know Ed joined us a little bit late. Tell us where the existing facilities are.
Yeah, so we've got Yellowstone and Glacier in Montana, Moab and Zion in Utah, Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, and then Grand Canyon and Tucson in Arizona.
So any more you can tell us about geography that you're looking at above and beyond the Maine and New York? Is there?
Yes. Yeah. So we announced just a couple of months ago that we have four new proposed camps in California. And some of them are, again, the iconic national parks, but also Sonoma. So some wine country and beachfront on Catalina Island, Yosemite, which will be epic. So we're kind of spreading our wings, and we'll be coast to coast, which is amazing.
Interesting. It's certainly going to be interesting to see when you get near population centers, what it does for the business, and whether or not you can do kind of like what Club Med did, where once you become into the Club Med family, again, the concept is gone because the all-inclusives have come in, but once you're into that family, or it's kind of like maybe like what cruising is right now. If you're a Royal Caribbean fan, you only cruise on Royal Caribbean, or if your only cruise on Celebrity, etc. Talk about, we talked briefly about the food, but I didn't give you a chance to totally explain it. When I looked at one of the menus there, I was flabbergasted with the offerings that you had for dinner.
Yeah, and actually we're kind of reinventing our food and beverage offering next year as well. But it's all based on, like I said, we source locally wherever possible, and just fresh, fresh and wholesome, basically. So that, because people have been outdoors all day, probably walking around and hiking and biking and fly fishing and canyoneering and all sorts of stuff. So, but yeah, we've got a kids menu, we've got salads and fresh trout, and the quality of the food is really exceptional. Our director of F&B has done an amazing job, and we find chefs that kind of embrace the same values around being wholesome and making sure that people feel energized and ready to make the most of where they are. So
one of the things one of the features that I did like, was the fact that you will pack lunches for people to take with them. Because I know when we've been to Grand Canyon and to Yellowstone, also to Acadia as well, the parks are beautiful, but the F&B opportunities, the food and beverage opportunities are somewhat lacking, unless you like a cold sandwich or a tasteless hot dog or an overpriced burger.
So I love that we do that too. So the night before, you just have to have put your order in. There's a full lunch menu. You can choose from 7 or 8 different sandwiches, and they're all designed in mind to make sure that they're not going to be soggy by 1 o'clock. And a packet of chips and some fruit and a drink. So so you're sort of ready to take on the day. And then we also have a coffee crate service. So if you want fresh coffee brought to your tent in the morning to get you up and at 'em, you can do that too.
It's
kind of tent service.
Yeah. What in the 7 years, again, you've only been around for a year and a half, but what have been the major changes that have been made since day one to the newest properties that are coming? What are the biggest things that they said, you know what, we either need to expand on this because it's worked great, or get rid of this concept because it didn't work at all?
I think that, so interestingly, just coming off that, the food and beverage piece is huge. So Yellowstone, so thinking back to the first few, Glacier and Moab up until now haven't had food. And so they've had sort of snack bars and but without that offering, it's been a little limiting. They have grills so that people can, kind of like more traditional camping, people can bring, their own chicken and steaks. And so we're going to make sure that we have also some of that on hand, in the coming year, so that people can cook on site. But the evolution has been kind of making sure that we can provide food for people, just knowing that they've got long days, and it's been a really enjoyable communal piece of the experience. And then just the site selection too. I think that it's in terms of what makes us unique compared to the auto camp or whatever, just finding these really amazing treasures of property that are just as much part of the experience. So just being more and more selective over time. And then, of course, the evolution of the tents themselves. Like I said, Jake, keeps coming up with wild and wonderful ideas, and they just become all the more elevated with every camp. So, the stargazing panel, for example, was amazing. That was an amazing innovation.
That's cool.
That was added on. And now we've got a suite that's, great for families, which is sort of bigger and got a huge amount of square footage and a fold-out bed for kids. And
and I'll tell you, especially when you go out to the west to those cabins, those places that are not near a metro center, it's so dark at night, and the stars are so
amazing.
bright.
Mm-hmm.
There's no bleed from the city that you won't think it's that much, but a lot of places that you camp in various cities, at least in the Northeast, the campgrounds are pretty close to metro areas. So there's always a little bit of extra whiteness in the air that doesn't give you that the same look that you'd see in the skies of again, Grand Canyon or Yellowstone.
Oh, it's amazing. The Grand Canyon, obviously they were recently awarded with the Night Sky Award just because of the lack of light pollution there.
I didn't even know that.
I went on a tour there recently, and the guide was telling me that he had a gentleman from Tokyo on a tour who was brought to tears because he was saying, look at the stars, and he'd never seen them before. He'd never seen them before.
No, I know. Even at night. Even at night. Yeah, so, Mae, we've got a couple of minutes left. What would you want to tell if you had an opportunity for 30 seconds to talk to a group of people that are outdoor lovers, what would you say to them about why they should visit you in Maine next year?
Well, firstly, it sounds like the property, I know our development team said it's one of their favorite pieces of land that we've operated on. So that's amazing. We're hoping we can get a dock so that we can embrace the water aspect of it as well. But again, that's all pending permitting. But I just think, again, with these, the disconnecting, the time with family, it's such a unique experience. It changed me when I did it. I'm obviously well and truly behind the concept now, and it's just a really fun thing to do, like I said, as a staycation if you're local, or having friends in town, and just really impactful, more than just a destination hotel stay. It will change the way you think about the outdoors and your time connecting with people, and hopefully you leave joining us in our mission to protect and preserve and get outside and get more people outdoors.
Great. Well, we want to thank you so much for spending time with us. Our guest has been Mae Lilly, the Vice President for Marketing and Communications for UnderCanvas.com. See, folks, I finally did figure out how to put some graphics up on the screen. So with that being said, Bob will be back next week. We're going to talk about all the things that he learned and taught others as well in Las Vegas at the RV Dealers Association event that he's there right now. So with that being said, it's John DiPietro inviting you to share this, share it, and share it. And again, special guest, special thanks to our guest from UnderCanvas.com. Let's go RVing, everybody.